Woohoo! Here we go. It's the BetaSaaSers AutoGrader meeting, and I haven't been here for a little while. We had some sprints, and we had, I was away at the NHS meeting last week, but we have Matt and Jay and Richard and myself, Sam. Let me go on screen share here so you can see the joy that is Apple Text Edit. I like it. It's fun. Pop my thing in there as well. Yeah, Richard, did you have any high-level agenda items for the meeting?
Let's see if this switches over. Okay, now I can hear. There are one is just the overall Codio status long-term, meaning after this semester. Mm-hmm. And especially with sort of financial and that kind of stuff. And the other is just to note that what I'm going to be doing in my class this is just my overall status, which I can talk about if there's time. But I'm going to be having my students do the Chapter 4, what I call the Chapter 4 walkthrough in class, and I assume that will just go, as smoothly as it ever does in Codio.
Which is the Chapter 4?
Well, Chapter 4 is where they build the rotten potatoes from scratch, from basically a Rails new command. And as you read through Chapter 4, you are encouraged, which most people don't do, but to actually follow along and issue the commands and try things out. And what I do is I attempt to force my students to do that. And part of what I do is I say after each section that they complete, push their work to GitHub, and then I look for a certain number. Well, actually, commit and push, but I look for a certain number of push commits, and with a little script that I have to sort of grade them on completion.
All right. So yeah, no, we'll get to get the full status update when we come back around to you. Jay, yeah, high-level items from you. So yeah, you had some questions about the final exam, which is part of the MOOCs blog. Any other questions or concerns on your mind?
Not overall. I have a few questions about getting started with Cucumber,
right?
And following your walkthrough, which we might want to take offline, but it's up to you.
Let's see. Yeah. Matt, do you have any updates or things of concern?
Sorry, it's muted. Not really. I'm kind of more here as a voyeur, I guess.
But also a person who does important work for the rest of us. So it's like, I mean, you
the best kind of voyeur.
Because you continue to work through you're kind of like you're taking another pass through part 1 in your weekend collaboration mobs, right?
Yeah, that's true. And what Richard was just saying about using the book would be nice to try to incorporate that. But I guess the one thing I did want to mention is that to kind of give credit to Max for actually responding to Jay's concern there on the group, which it turns out that doesn't have anything to do with Codio. It doesn't seem like, but he still took the time to actually respond and give a thoughtful answer. So I think that's really, really awesome of him.
Is that on the mailing list or the
BetaSaaSers
in the BetaSaaSers channel? Great.
Yeah, and also it would be. I mean, I assume that it's going to happen in more depth on Friday. But if there's time for you to get an update on how the Friday 2 weeks ago went with Codio and the AutoGraders stuff.
Yeah. So I think we'll cover this. So we'll start with that once we've gone through all of our high levels. Then items from me. I managed to create Janet Spock. She has got that, so that seems to be under control. The MOOC part 2 is not updated. Now that I don't think we'll have Max joining us for the Codio people joining us again. I think we've extracted the key information that we need. This Friday in the MOOC mob, we should start, I think, working through part 2 and upgrading the part 2 items. So that's oh God, what is it? It's upgrading part 2 in particular. That's the Oracle of Bacon, which I know you had been working on, Matt, and so hopefully you'll be free this Friday and we can look at it together.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
That's part 2 that's already in my SPOC.
Yeah, so the SPOCs now that as we generally release them have parts 1 and 2, which are called basic and advanced in the MOOC environment. Yeah, and they are, you have them rolled together. So you've got, in principle, you've got all of the assignments, although often I think it's relatively few instructors will use, you know, all of the assignments and the project's work. And so, yeah, let's go back to Codio. So Codio, it wasn't last Friday, it did Friday, 10 days ago. So we learnt a load of stuff, and like I said, one of the things just to add there, which is about Armando book update. Let's put that in there.
Oh, yeah.
That includes, oh gosh, there's like PDFs and version 2. So yeah, so we had Max gave us an overview of Codio and how it all works. He answered some questions. This is probably more interest to you, Matt. Like the curl script that we were looking at, which is the thing we have to call from in a grading script. Basically, it only sends the grade, and the output from the grader is only plain text at this stage. And so it basically seems like the setup is pretty simple. We've kind of got the grader working. I mean, we spent some time like with him setting up some different things. He's obviously very, very familiar with the classes and the modules and all the different things that still don't quite make perfect sense to me. What became clear was that although it seems like Codio would, you know, we can certainly have a script that students can run. The way that their system is set up by default is it tries to conceal from the students what they got other than the grade. So they can't see the output from the script. Like, and that's like, I mean, it's following this traditional educational model of students shouldn't have insights into their learning process, and you know, very clever professor, instructor-like people will make sure that it all works. So it's a bit old-fashioned in that regard. I think they are in the process of trying to update. We got here under this, you can sort of see, this was my notes from that meeting, that they have coming soon, apparently before next semester, which is like January, the ability for students to submit multiple times. So at the moment, the student in their environment can say, they basically, in order for the thing to be graded, they have to mark the assignment as complete, but they can only do that once, right? And their default flow in their system is they mark the assignment as complete, and then at some point in the future, when the instructor deigns to, they can then send the grades. So it follows a model of student works. They say, right, this is my final submission, and then locks down their workspace, and they can do no more work. The instructor has access to the workspace to go and see what they've done, and the instructor can then release grades or not at some point in the future. And only when the instructor decides to release the grade can the student then go into their little portal and see, oh, I got 70 out of 100 for this particular assignment. So
now, how does that deal with just the usual like late assignments and students missing this or anything? Is there it just seems particularly inflexible given that Codio has like done a nice job elsewhere.
Yes. I mean, they've got their basic virtual machine is there. I mean, I think reflecting their technical rather than their educational nonce. I mean, so what they're working towards, and they have had this feedback from other instructors, is to allow multiple submit, which we currently have with the edX grader setup. So they're saying they're going to get that before next semester. Then they're also hoping to have within 2 months the ability for the instructor to say, just automatically release the grades. I presume either at a fixed time set in advance, or ideally, as we get with the current graders, whenever a student submits, they can get the results. So then the nice thing is that with the current setup, even without these things, at least the instructor can see the output of the graders running on the student stuff relatively easily, much more easy than it is to currently find that I think in the edX phase, assuming that you're happy navigating Codio as opposed to edX. I mean, it's all 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But so for the ability for the student to see the full output in the Codio dashboard, they reckon is another 2 or 3 months away. But like, okay, so then there's the things like, although that would be possible in principle automatically if you would linked Codio to the LMS. And so Max was saying he didn't understand it, but he knows that other groups have linked Codio to edX so that the students, I guess, see the output in edX. And then that's like due to some like LTI protocol and so on. As I try to drive into this and find out how it worked, like, I mean, this is the kind of thing we would have to, I think, look up. And I was starting to be a little bit skeptical about whether we would get the kind of integration at this stage that we were hoping for. But so then that was the hour, and I was kind of like, right, okay, I've got a strong sense of independently of integration with edX. I've got a strong sense of what their platform can and can't do at the moment. Yeah, that's where it was, which I mean I think means that switching from our current auto-grading setup to the Codio for auto-grading, I think that's something that would happen next year at the earliest, and we would want to be kind of cautious about doing that, particularly if we come back then to the other point, which is Richard's bigger question about the long term with Codio, about what the payments are for that. And the answer is that I don't know. I mean, Armando continues to negotiate with them. I did reach out to them on behalf of Janet. I don't know if Janet is now set up with Codio or not, but I'd say this is still a kind of a gray area. I'm sort of put that in there. So that long-term funding finance question mark. So yeah, I mean, any other questions about Codio and what's going on there?
So it seemed the LTI integration would be taking the output from the grading and sending it over to our, what we now use as Canvas, which seems, cumbersome for all involved and more work than perhaps just displaying a dialog box or something in the Codio environment. In other words,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think their plan is, and that was like, for within 2 or 3 months, that they would have the ability. I mean, like the instructor can currently see like, oh, here's the output
right.
from the grading process. But yeah, so that, yeah, trivially, I mean, I think that the linking to the LMS is not, seen as a replacement for this. That's just the way that it's currently.
Okay.
It's suggested that could be helpful. I mean, I think that and I don't know, like Canvas or Blackboard or what have you. I think the suggestion is that it could link to edX, and so that the student could. I mean, in principle, in the ideal world, they would be in edX. Well, I don't know if you're in edX in the ideal world. I don't know about that, but assuming that one was committed to edX, in the ideal world, all of those, you would be on the assignment page, and you would click on a link, and it would take you to just drop you into the Codio environment, and you're like, right, here's all the code I need to work on. I can just, and I've, all the versions are installed, this whatever, and I just start working on it, and then I say, right now I've finished it, and your grade, the details would still be visible there, but all of the grading results would also be sent back to edX, and so you could get your edX certificate or this, that, and that. I mean, for you folks using this box, you probably don't care about that level of integration because you send the students out to GitHub and C9 or whatever to do it, and then, I mean, I presume you have them, but I guess you do download like summaries of the grades from the edX Edge, right, from the Spock. So yeah, that's so
right.
Again,
right. In some ways, if I, what I want set back to my LMS is just the grade and the comments. I would be way more interested in letting the students get the feedback and seeing that in Codio. And again, I'm not trying to nail things down. I'm just trying to make sure I understand, because it seemed a little bit non-intuitive. But I got it.
Yeah, cool.
And then my second follow-up is the pricing. What they were talking about seemed like on the order of $50 a student. which
Yeah,
I just want to get your, like, others' impression, and especially yours, is that
sounds very
seems
expensive.
a little bit high.
Yeah, I mean that seems completely unrealistic, given that we can use C9 with a bit of mucking about. You know what I mean?
For free.
Yeah.
Basically.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's, it's the model of the century, isn't it? That basically you put something together for free and build up your user base, and you gather all their data, and then you gradually try and work out a way of extracting money for them to, like,
right.
So your venture capitalist investors will be happy at some point in the future. Yeah. So I mean, I think we're attractive fish in that there's if it all works through, then in principle there's a number of different institutions that would start using it, including UC Berkeley and this MOOC and this, that, and the other, and it's a good profile up for Codio and so on. But yeah, I'm not involved in the. I've been talking to Armando about the book updates, and I've been talking to Codio about all the technical stuff. I haven't been like engaging to try and extract information about the Codio financial.
Okay, because that's sort of, I mean, once our trial period ends this semester, that's sort of key, like where we move forward. So
yeah, indeed. Jay, you were going to say?
Okay.
I was just going to. You haven't been talking pricing with Codio. Has Armando?
Yeah, I mean, I've been CC'd on some emails where that's going backwards and forwards. I've not seen any like substantive, I mean, I'm going to go back and read them again. I'm not seeing. I'm seeing Armando saying yes, we're going to sort this all out, and I haven't seen the Codio people saying yes, it's going to be free for everyone forever yet. But who knows? They may say that still. It's yeah, I'm trying to find anything from them, actually. Yeah.
$50 is a lot when the textbook costs 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a different model. I mean, yeah, I hadn't seen that 50. Well, where had you heard that £50 a student model, Richard?
I think it's on their website.
Oh, it's on their website.
Right, and I thought I heard it from Philip when he gave me the trial, something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
$10 a month or something like that, or
$40 or $50 a semester.
Yeah.
I'm just rereading.
You heard that independently, or heard or saw that independently. In other words, you're not just repeating my.
No, I seem to recall seeing on their website it was $40 or $50 per student per semester or a year. I don't remember. Sam, you mentioned in passing that we could use C9. You mean the new AWS C9?
Yeah. I mean, some people are using it, and I mean, it's still there. It's just that the sign up process is now a pain, and without guidance, it's likely that at least some students will get stuck in that setup process.
Yeah, I was trying to work through that, but they couldn't get it working before the semester started.
Yeah. So I mean,
and I've got the free trial extended through December, and then I'm not teaching again until next fall. So I'm okay for now.
Yeah.
I mean, the email that I'm reading from I'm just rereading the emails. Armando, I think, saying that like using the Codio to do I think Armando's going to be pushing very strongly for all instructors to be able to continue using Codio for free with this. Whether he gets that or not, I mean, I can follow up with him. I think it's going to be like the same thing he seems to be mentioning here is like it not extending to, if you want to do a different programming course that's unrelated to the Agile development using Ruby on Rails MOOC, then that would be another matter. But yeah, so I mean, I'm seeing the emails about Philip and Armando having a conversation. I will speak to Armando fairly soon, and I will follow up on this to try and find.
I don't need free, but I could live with $10 or something.
Yeah, I think we should press for free and see how we go.
It would be better.
Yeah, I like
that doesn't create much of a business model for Codio.
No, I mean, no, in the long run, clearly, but like what they're supposed to do is that we're giving, like we're beta testing their entire system and then promoting its use like beyond things. And then so this will be restricted to this course. So then, for example, other instructors in your institution, Jay, who are like, oh, wow, that looks really exciting, but they want to use it for their Python programming class or what have you, would then be signing up. And then there's the question of like, yeah, exactly what their pricing structure should be for people who want to come and do a new thing with it. But yeah. I'll put this anyway. I'll put an action item in for me to follow up with Armando on.
Well, I just to report, I seem to be out front in using Codio in this.
You are. You're the trailblazer. We really appreciate you being that canary in that coal mine.
Getting all the arrows in my back.
Yeah, we hope
I guess with Matt's help at the beginning, the Codio part has gone quite smoothly.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'd love to make sure we capture all of your things and get them into the assignment so that each assignment has kind of like a, Codio cheat sheet and what have you. Or great. Yeah. You had a question about the final exam.
Oh, can I just before we leave? I had my hand up.
Yep. Go.
Before we leave Codio, is there a? It's very easy to link into a student's workspace with Codio. But what I didn't see an easy way of doing, or I didn't see like to do it in a live way like we did with Cloud9. Does anyone happen to know, like yes or no, if that's easy or possible?
I'm not sure what you're asking. Sorry, go on, Jay.
To have a live session like we did, two people working like literally in the same workspace where they could be seeing each other typing, kind of thing. Two remote,
right. Like a shared terminal. My sense was that they couldn't do that. Is that okay? I might be wrong. What did you think, Matt? I think it's kind of designed for like one person at a time with three
because I started with you and then you were doing stuff and I wasn't seeing, but I don't take that as authoritative. I would have to test.
Okay, I just figured I would ask, because what that means is either people would have to screen share if they want to collaborate. The other thing that I don't know how it is on a time basis, but I do see updates if I have a file open and like an editor open on a file and the other person changes it, I will see the updates, I think. So anyway, I'm happy to move on.
How do you get out of your own environment to see?
Well, I thought I worked. I maybe even showed through. You go through, a series of, like, you find your students, and at some point you have your list of students, and one of the options is to open their workspace.
Okay, I'll take a look.
Yeah, and I almost thought I went through that with you at some point a little while ago.
I don't recall, but that doesn't mean you didn't do it.
Okay, good. Okay, on to the next, if you want.
Yeah, indeed. I was just typing out a question for Max in there. No. That's what we should do. There's a good question, and we were sort of looking at that before. And did I ask Max that already? And he said no. Anyway, I've asked him again in the BetaSaaSers chat, so we'll see if we get some information on that. But Jay, you were asking about the final exam that's in the MOOC Spock, and I was saying that I don't personally use that, and that was a requirement that was added. There's some kind of, like, I don't know, they're called Great Teaching Oak or some kind of, so there was some kind of college that was offering credits, college credit to students who were taking the MOOC if they, in addition to completing the MOOC requirements, also did some extra exams. So I think if you want to use that, if you like the exam, I mean, Armando, I think, put a lot of effort into these different bits of exams. If you want to use the final, the midterm, or the things that you find in there, be our guest. Yeah, I don't know how many hours you should assign to the students to getting it done. That's I guess, I don't know. I usually give students, like, if I ever am forced to send it, if someone holds me to gunpoint to send an exam, I say to students, like, submit it sometime in the next 24 hours, usually.
Okay, and then would you set a time limit on
a time limit on doing the exam? I think as it stands, that was the way they set it up. It was like, once you start it, there's like an hour time limit. again, I'm personally not a fan of that. I try and assess my students by having them all submit videos of them doing pair programming with each other. Evil, insane person that I am. But
I mean, yeah, you can definitely tell them to compare with us on Agile Ventures if you want. I'm happy to pair with any of your students, Jay.
Oh, okay. Well,
all 150 of mine.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, bring them on. You know,
limit of 15 per hangout, but I am,
yeah, we probably can't play with them 150 at the same time, like 150. Yeah. But we're very happy, like over the course of the week, to do the 150.
And I'm happy to help organize like you know, multiple pairing sessions at the same time. I'm all about like synchronicity, whatever that is.
Synchronized pairing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't needed to do that yet.
We also provide guidance on you know, real world like open source projects that we run into issues sometimes. So
yeah, you got to watch out, Matt, because these are academics, you know, in their ivory towers. They don't really want to know so much about the real world out there. It's making sure that the students get their, you know, don't complain too much. They get their grades. They get through that, you know, academic pipeline, I think. So yeah, but anyway, Jay, the offer still stands. Anytime you want to get students more interacting with projects and pairing and stuff, we're all here.
Okay, appreciate it.
Your next item was getting started with Cucumber and following the walkthrough. When you say the walkthrough, do you mean in the textbook or in the like the assignment 3 or 4 or the BDD Cucumber?
Your CI walkthrough.
CI walkthrough, right? Yes, I mean I can't necessarily take strong ownership of the walkthroughs. I think I start to know what you mean. Right? Yes, we've got that community instructor resources repo, haven't we? Go on.
It's a subset of the SAS book.
Yes, I had forgotten that we had that.
Somebody gave me access to.
Yes, we've got this instructor community resource. I think that's the right one. Yes, and it's got So indeed, we've got.
So it's the repos that end in -CI.
Oh, right, and then there's the ones that so there's this one, right, which has got some other bits and pieces. That's something that Rose put in there. Yeah, and then I think a year or two ago, as I passed through doing the assignments, I kind of tried to put walkthroughs in there. Oh, right, so you're probably in the BDD Cucumber CI repo. Yeah, so only this is like only limited people have access to this. And then did we have? Oh no, there is. Yeah. My opinion, my warning about it being opinionated is not at the top. Right. So it's although I probably as I got further into the course, it was less opinions and more just me copying and pasting exactly the output of what I got and what I did and so on. Yes. So did you have some questions relating to this?
I did, and do you want me to do it here?
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, you can pose the questions. If it ends up being an extremely long answer, then we'll push it off into another thing. But if you can, I mean, if you've got a list of like 20 questions, then maybe we'll push it to the end. But if you've got like 1 or 2 questions, then yeah, we could jump into the.
Well, the basic question is, I was following your walkthrough on the Cucumber homework, and some things didn't work. I sent you a note about one, which was, I guess, a typo on your part or something. But also, I noticed that you're running Cucumber on specific scenarios.
Yes, I'm a big fan of that.
With the line number.
Yes.
Identifying them with the line number, and depending on how you edit the
file, yes, sometimes the line number can change.
The line number can change, or the line number can be a blank line, and that doesn't seem to work. So I just had to make note of the fact that you're testing a specific scenario, starting with whatever line it happens to be on in my file.
Yes. No, that's a good point. It's
I was just a question about navigating your walkthrough that way, and I've figured them all out so far.
Okay.
But I'm just trying to get a sense of, where you're coming from on these. You're trying to just produce an answer, or produce a series of steps to get to the answer, including some potential false steps. You trying to be pedagogical or just helpful here?
Well, I think whenever I'm being helpful, I'm also being pedagogical. How effective I am at either being helpful or pedagogical is, of course, open to question. I mean, I think this is. I had previously recorded videos of me walking through these things and describing them, which people had found some utility, and it had been commented that having the video walkthrough, it was less easy to kind of like then pick apart and so on. I mean, there's also, they are more difficult to maintain when they're videos. And so the attempt, I think, with all of these walkthroughs is to basically show, particularly for instructors, here is a way to do this assignment. And because otherwise you potentially leave an instructor in the situation that, they have to sort of do the assignment and they might do it their own way, and they're wondering, well, what's, are there any other ways? So I think it's trying to help the instructors. I mean, I think to an extent, and probably the discussion aspects, as I say, like as you go on through them, get down. I think there is also an attempt on my part to kind of, as I think at least in here, one thing, comment on the real world applicability of some of the aspects of the solution. So in this one on the BDD cucumber, and it's assessing the what was it even called? It's checking for the number of rows in the table to work out if the things, and I'm like saying I'm not sure that I would necessarily do that in a in a production system, but that's the way it is at the moment. So it's to give some sort of commentary as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Are those videos still available?
They are around, although increasingly out of date. I think that they are, in fact, here. So these are the video walkthroughs from. So, and assuming, and probably you should have access to this repo, but just let me know if you don't. Yeah, so these are the YouTube links to all of. But this is then this is as far back as I think maybe even I was doing them in the virtual machines that we used to run, and so on. So you may find them interesting to see the flow, even if you enjoy me talking over myself typing, as I sometimes do. That might be helpful. But in terms of actually picking out a specific solution that will then work with the latest assignment, then they become less and less useful for that. Yeah, so that's a good. I mean, what I'll go on. For some reason I'm having trouble. Richard. You're right, Richard.
Richard, you mentioned you do some walkthroughs in class. Is that the same sort of thing?
No, in chapter 4, if you sort of open it and read it, it basically says instructs people follow along in a in your environment in a terminal as you read this, and I basically try and force the students to do that.
Okay.
And all the other chapters are like more like semi-typical text where you read and there's concept stuff, and yeah, there's a few things you can type in here and there, but chapter 4 is really set up to just follow along. And it and what I find is that the transition used to be right from essentially the Ruby intro or Ruby calisthenics homework right into the Rails intro homework, and that was a abrupt leap. So the Sinatra was put in, and what I do is I do the last week I did a Rails tutorial, which is the Hartle tutorial, just to get them basically to create a very, very simple Rails app and talk a little bit about GitHub and Heroku more. That actually would have been better before the Sinatra homework, because the way that's done in the Hartle tutorial is more explanatory. And then I give them another week of like sort of flexing their muscles, and I do have them walk through chapter 4 before. Next week I'll assign the Rails intro homework.
Well, I found my students were able to get through the Sinatra homework on their own. I prepared some hints for them, but none of them seemed to need it. So that was fortunate.
All good.
All right.
Okay.
Good stuff. So yeah, so like I said, we've covered all those points. Let's go on to Matt. Yeah, I think Matt, actually, your items are, there isn't really further follow-up on either of these information items, is there?
No, I mean, I can always think of questions I have and comments to make, but I think
Yeah.
Sam, if you would look at Max's response to my or my original question that Max responded to, I think it points to maybe some updates for the students in the README of the repo.
Interesting. Yes. No, I've got that there. I see also Max has just responded to my question right now about the sharing and the collaboration and saying that's not possible, and the layout, open files, and terminal are not synchronized, and they can see file edits in real time only. So yeah, I think Codio is clearly limited compared to C9 in terms of its real-time collaboration. Yes, and so like Max is saying that there's then, yeah, so thank you for highlighting that, Jay. Yeah, I mean, what we haven't done, I certainly haven't done at the moment, is run through all the things in Codio and updated all the instructions for that. I mean, there's just an ongoing, work for that, I guess. Depending upon how, it's difficult because of course we're not sure how long we will have Codio for, and so like this Friday when we start to work on this stuff again, should we focus on upgrading part 2 to make sure that it uses Ruby 2.4 and so on, the process that we've already started, or should we go back to the beginning and start to do a review, making sure that all of the readmes are updated to include Codio? So yeah, there's
right, and I think because of the uncertainty now, it's the former.
Yeah, we have the former.
Yeah.
I think there hasn't, since the beginning, there's only been a little bit of change that we have to make to the instructions to make it work on Codio.
Yeah.
It's just recognizing that Codio is in a different environment, and things like localhost and username don't turn out the way you do.
Well, so one of the things that we can do to make, like, so as sort of a partial fix is, or a partial way of tackling it is, so I mean, I think it's great using Slack for the questions about the Codio, because obviously Max is in there, and that's wonderful. What we can also do, like you were saying about that, is so it's an extra effort to like work out like where would I put Max's thing into the README for the Cucumber thing, which is like another thing. But what I can do very, very simply is create an issue on the BDD Cucumber, which in principle, I mean, not students will not necessarily know to look in these issues, but it puts it in a place where other instructors can find it when they might not necessarily see it in Slack. And then when Matt and myself and others come back through, we've got that in a location that's easy to find. So
what you're doing now, I think, is this was about an earlier homework.
I think you're right. So yeah, now I want to be able to move that to a different I think there is a plugin that used to allow me to do that. So have I still got I've got the wrong thing. No. Yes, you're on the rails.
Don't try to multitask. It's contraindicated.
It's what? Sorry, it's
contraindicated.
Well, indeed.
I read that somewhere recently.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a nutter in that regard. So yeah, this just should be the Rails thing. Well, what I'm trying to do is just like do the thing and show it to you at the same time. So if that's multitasking, then I'm guilty. But yeah, like so this would be in the Rails assignment, and pop that in there. And so then this is like Jay said, There we go. Right. Like so. So this is about use on Codio. And then what I can do is actually report Max's answer in there, and then we have it for later on. But yeah, thanks so much for that. It's so Max replied. There we go. Right, I have to change that slightly. Okay, and so that I think that's that we had Matt's items. Really appreciate Matt's support. Yeah.
And to answer your previous question, I would also prefer you work on part 2.
On the 2.4, yeah, no, I think that's a sensible.
Preferably before
you get to it.
The middle of my semester.
Indeed, so we'll see. We'll see how far we can get. So yeah, then I think the final. I think I've already covered the other things there. Final thing, yeah. So I sent like clearly we've had this ongoing problem with Amazon and them like refusing to update the Kindles, or just I don't know. Come on, Jeff Bezos, you're supposed to be so smart. Surely you could sort that out for us. I guess he's busy building wind turbines and stuff. But so I think I've sent you PDFs of the latest thing came through from Armando. Although I accidentally sent you the wrong link. Now I think you've got the right stuff. Hopefully. So yeah, Richard and Jay, you're all PDF upped with the latest version.
I have the PDF. It's of course hard to tell what the diff is.
Yeah, indeed. I'm trying to convince Armando to like give the
PDF to my students.
I think the idea is that you don't give the PDF to your students.
Okay.
Because I think the idea is that they will be buying the textbook themselves.
But the students have already bought the textbook, the Kindle version, which Kindle and
update to 2.2.2. Well, I think you could probably rather than like me making an executive decision, like you could email Armando and say thanks so much for the 2.2.2. My students still can't upgrade. Would it be all right to share these for the semester and see what he says? You know, I guess there's an extent to which, well. You know, I would reach out to Armando and see what he says.
Well, I'll tell you, I would also mention that a couple of my students at the beginning of the term said they found a PDF online, so they didn't have to buy it at all.
Well, the problem is it's probably an old PDF.
Yeah, I don't know.
Version?
I didn't ask to look at it.
Right. The issue is unless they get the read the one from 2 years ago, then they're probably better off spending their $10 on a real
thing. Of business models. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to convince Armando to go for a thing where basically the entire book is free to read online, like Michael Hartle, and then we can have submissions via pull requests, and people only pay for the physical version if they're so inclined. And but yeah, anyway, so that which segues into version 2 of the textbook, where Armando is working on that and has doing a restructuring, and I think a lot around the idea that, and I think you'll like this, Richard, sort of following the idea that you'd suggested, which is like of kind of extracting the code stuff from the conceptual stuff, so that the book becomes much more of a conceptual thing that occasionally points out to say, and you can see these concepts in action here, and basically all of the code is in GitHub and things that can be more easily maintained and update, and you could be then like you could do the entire course using Python or Node or what have you, and it was less kind of
following good software engineering design principles,
right?
Preparation of insurance. Okay, good.
There we go. Yeah. So go on.
And well, this is just before we ended. I think we do not know where Janet is going, but I know. I mean, what facilities she's going to be using for her students. But the last I spoke with her, she was planning to go with the virtual machine, and that sort of, if she is, that's sort of interesting to see. That's another approach that we haven't used in a while that I'm not as down on as what I mean, Cloud9 was nice and all this other stuff, but the virtual machine had its own niceness too.
Yeah,
we'll find out from her.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know that. I mean, is she putting one together herself?
Well,
I don't think they are.
I mean, she used, I think she used something and just sort of fixed it up as necessary. And I mean, you know, once you have the basic virtual machine running, isn't it pretty much like you're in the environment and you just bring things in as needed?
Yeah, I mean, she was certainly asking if a version of that could be made available, but I think, you know, the virtual machine images that we're putting up haven't been updated.
Oh yeah, yeah, but I think she was doing that. She was sort of doing
She was
that
updating
herself.
it herself. Yeah,
Right, and
yeah.
having some reasonable success.
Hmm.
I mean, just because she's been in the meetings the last few weeks, and we've been talking about it.
Well, and I'm sure Matt would be. There are people who are excited about Docker. There's also this, you know.
Right, and we actually had that conversation, the three of us, about Docker, and Matt sort of indicated is even though the Docker had better potential, it wasn't quite as ready for prime time as what Janet felt she needed. And she was getting that with I mean, she was working through stuff with the VirtualBox. Right,
right, indeed. Well, hopefully she'll join us next week. We haven't what's the word? Kind of fundamentally decided, but I'm sort of thinking that we might postpone. We're in this sort of like sprint on, sprint off thing, but there've been some requests, and I think we might maybe have. What were you thinking, Matt, about us having 2 admin weeks in a row? You didn't react negatively to that, did you? When I mentioned it,
No, I mean, it could be helpful, you know. Sometimes I feel like maybe it would it even be better to do, like, instead of 1 week off, 1 week on, 1 week on and 2 weeks off, 1 week on and 2 weeks off, you know. But I don't know.
Keep experimenting.
Sometimes it feels like it's really difficult to get caught up on everything in that week that we're not sprinting.
Right. Yeah.
Particularly since there are some stuff like we've seen from the I guess 2 week-long sprints that we've done, that we have some like some hangovers from the sprint that would be nice to try to button up, you know.
Indeed. Yeah. So well. Anyway, we'll let you know. I mean, either way, I guess that this meeting will continue to be at this time, and we'll see you either in 1 week or in 2 weeks, and we'll continue to be on Slack. And yeah, I'll try and follow up with Armando about the pricing on Codio. And yeah, otherwise, good luck with the ongoing courses. We'll try and get the Part 2 upgraded to 2.4 and so on and so forth.
It reminds me regarding the follow-up with Armando that's all linked with edX auto grading kind of stuff, right? And because they wanted to phase out running the current servers and phasing out or changing edX, so all that's a little interrelated. And I know we don't have answers to those things yet.
But yes, they are all intertwinkled, as they say. Yeah.
By the way,
all right. Go on,
Ed. Is there a way for the instructor to see the student's actual submission to the AutoGrader?
No.
Okay.
Very annoyingly so.
Okay.
That is something that Codio offers, and you know, if we can switch over completely to Codio, it's in principle, as you have a list of your students, you click on their name, and not just can you see the submission, you can see their entire workspace, including effectively what has been submitted. So yeah, we'll look for. I mean, the interesting thing is apparently next year we'll also be moving away from the Spock model. And they have like, apparently edX has in the works a new version of that thing that we trialed like 2 years ago, where you could kind of have different instructors would see like sort of the same. Do you remember the other Sam tried that out, Richard? He tried out this.
Yeah. I remember that, and I shied away from it because I didn't.
And he hated it, and no one used it since. But so apparently edX, in their infinite wisdom, have come up with a new version where So that the thing with that first time, I think the kind of ancillary instructor could do was reorder things, but they couldn't edit. Whereas apparently in this new version, you'll get your copy of the MOOC and you'll be able to edit it however you want. But rather than being on Edge in a Spock format, it will be your customized version of the MOOC. Allegedly.
Virtual Spock.
Yeah, it's kind of like a virtual Spock. Yeah, shall we say? So that, I mean, you know, and how that interrelates with Cody and everything, we'll see. Maybe one day someone will start paying us to do all this. That would be great. We'll look forward to that day. Have a wonderful wonderful week, everyone. And yeah, Matt, I'll see you in the AV community talk meeting in about an hour and a half.
Oh,
Okay,
Okay,
good
thank
seeing
you.
you.
Bye for now. Take care.
is it?